When a cruel biker kicked a pit bull at a gas station, he had no idea Steph Curry was right there filling up his black Range Rover. What started as a quiet stop to refuel quickly turned into an unforgettable confrontation, showing the world, you should never underestimate the bond between a man and his dog. It was a calm, sunny afternoon at a gas station on the outskirts of town. The golden light of the sun made the surrounding hills glow, and the occasional chirping of birds filled the warm air. A few cars were parked near the pumps, their drivers minding their own business as they filled up their tanks. The hum of an approaching vehicle broke the quiet atmosphere, and moments later, a sleek black Range Rover pulled into the station, its shiny exterior reflecting the sun's rays. Behind the wheel was none other than Steph Curry, dressed casually in a hoodie and joggers after a long basketball practice. His relaxed expression gave away his desire to unwind, even if it was just during a quick stop for gas. He parked by one of the pumps and stepped out, his tall figure moving with ease as he grabbed the gas nozzle. Despite his celebrity status, Steph carried himself humbly, blending in with the everyday scene around him. In the back seat of the Range Rover sat Rocco, his loyal pit bull. The dog was muscular but gentle, his brown eyes filled with curiosity as he watched people moving around the station. His tail wagged slightly, and he let out a soft yawn, clearly enjoying the relaxed moment with his owner. Rocco stood up in the back seat, sniffing the air as though sensing something interesting. Steph glanced back at the car and smiled. "Easy, buddy. We'll be out of here soon," he said warmly before turning back to the pump. This brief stop felt like a peaceful break from the demands of his hectic NBA schedule, but neither Steph nor Rocco knew their quiet moment was about to take a sudden and unexpected turn. The gas station, once peaceful under the afternoon sun, grew tense as a group of rough-looking bikers pulled up near the pumps. Their motorcycles roared like angry beasts before falling silent. The group, dressed in leather jackets and heavy boots, leaned casually against their bikes, their loud laughter and crude jokes cutting through the calm air. They loitered near the pumps, their presence dominating the station and making some customers uneasy. Steph Curry, focused on refueling his car, noticed them from the corner of his eye but chose to mind his own business. He wasn't one to assume the worst about people, but there was something unsettling about the group. Meanwhile, Rocco, Steph's pit bull, had stepped out of the car, his leash dangling loosely from his collar. Curious as ever, Rocco began sniffing around the area, his wagging tail and bright eyes showing his gentle and friendly nature. One of the bikers, a burly man with tattoos snaking up his arms and a cruel grin plastered on his face, noticed Rocco. "Well, look at this," he sneered, nudging one of his friends. "A big, bad pit bull." His voice carried a mocking tone as he tapped his boot on the ground, trying to get Rocco's attention. Rocco, innocent and trusting, tilted his head and approached the man, his tail wagging slowly. He didn't sense the malice behind the biker's fake friendliness. The man crouched slightly, pretending to be interested in the dog. "Come here, boy," he said in a voice dripping with false sweetness. Rocco took a few more steps forward, his trust unwavering. Then, without warning, the biker's expression darkened. With a sudden, swift motion, he kicked Rocco in the side with his heavy boot. The force of the kick sent the dog stumbling back with a loud yelp of pain. The sound echoed across the station, silencing the laughter of other customers. Rocco scrambled to his feet, his tail tucked between his legs as he retreated toward Steph's car, clearly shaken and confused. The biker laughed cruelly, his friends joining in as if the act of violence was a joke. "That's what you get for letting your mutt wander around," the man sneered, his tone full of arrogance and contempt. One of his friends added, "Bet he's not so tough now, huh?" Steph froze for a moment, the sound of Rocco's yelp cutting through him like a knife. He turned toward his dog, his relaxed demeanor vanishing instantly. His eyes fell on Rocco, who was now crouched near the car, his body trembling slightly as he sought the comfort of familiar surroundings. The sight of his beloved dog hurt and frightened ignited a wave of anger and protectiveness in Steph. Steph's hand tightened around the gas pump, and his jaw clenched as he set it down. His calm, composed nature gave way to a quiet fury as he walked toward Rocco, kneeling to check his dog for injuries. "You're okay, buddy," he said softly, stroking Rocco's fur. But his reassuring tone masked the storm brewing inside him. He stood slowly, his tall frame exuding authority as he turned to face the bikers. The cruel smiles on their faces only fueled his determination. Steph Curry wasn't just about to let this slide. Rocco's pain demanded justice, and the bikers' cruelty was about to have consequences they hadn't anticipated. Steph Curry had just finished fueling his car when the sound of Rocco's sharp yelp froze him in place. His relaxed demeanor disappeared in an instant, replaced by a seriousness that rippled through the gas station like a storm brewing. He turned quickly, his eyes locking on Rocco, who was cowering near the car, trembling and hurt. The laughter from the group of bikers a few feet away told him everything he needed to know. Steph's heart tightened as he knelt beside Rocco, running his hands gently over the dog's muscular frame to check for injuries. "You're okay, buddy," he whispered softly, his voice filled with both reassurance and quiet fury. Rocco looked up at him with wide, trusting eyes, but his tail was tucked, and his body shivered slightly, a stark contrast to the dog's usual confidence. Steph stood slowly, his tall frame radiating calm authority as he turned to face the bikers. His calm exterior barely masked the anger simmering beneath the surface. The group of rough-looking men, initially amused by their actions, faltered slightly as they saw the intensity in his gaze. Steph wasn't just a basketball superstar in that moment, he was a man defending his best friend. With purposeful strides, Steph approached the group, his presence commanding enough to silence their laughter. He stopped a few feet away from the leader, the burly man who had kicked Rocco, and looked him straight in the eye. "Why would you hurt an innocent dog?" Steph asked, his voice calm but firm, every word weighted with quiet anger. The leader shrugged arrogantly, leaning against his motorcycle as if the question didn't matter. "It's just a dog," he said dismissively, waving a hand. "And a pit bull, no less. Dangerous animals. I was doing everyone a favor." Steph's jaw tightened, and his eyes narrowed. He took a step closer, his tone growing sharper. "Dangerous," he repeated. "That dog did nothing to you. He's gentle, he's curious, and all he wanted to do was say hello. The only dangerous thing here is your ignorance and cruelty." The biker smirked, clearly not used to being confronted like this. His friends chuckled nervously, but none of them seemed eager to back him up. "Look, man," the leader said, his tone still dripping with arrogance, "you might be some big-time basketball star, but you don't scare me. These dogs are a problem. I did what needed to be done." Steph's expression didn't waver. If anything, it grew more intense. "What needed to be done?" he asked, his voice steady and deliberate. "You kicked an innocent animal. You laughed at his pain. That doesn't make you strong, it makes you a coward." The other bikers exchanged uneasy glances, their bravado starting to crack under the weight of Steph's words. Steph, however, wasn't finished. "Rocco is my dog," he continued, his voice unwavering. "And he's not just my pet, he's my family. If you think it's okay to hurt him, then you've got a serious problem. And I'm not going to let it slide." The tension in the air was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. Steph's calm yet commanding presence left no room for the biker's usual bravado. Even the leader's smirk faded slightly as Steph's words sank in. The laughter that had filled the station earlier was gone now, replaced by an uncomfortable silence. Steph stood his ground, his eyes never leaving the bikers. "You don't get to walk around hurting others just because you can," he said, his voice cutting through the quiet. "Not animals, not people, not anyone. That's not strength. That's weakness." Rocco, now sitting by Steph's side, let out a soft growl, as if echoing his owner's resolve. Steph placed a reassuring hand on the dog's head, his gaze still locked on the group. The bikers may have started the encounter with cruelty and arrogance, but they weren't prepared for the strength of a man who wouldn't back down in the face of injustice. The biker leader took a step forward, his smug grin returning as he crossed his arms and leaned slightly toward Steph. "What's the big deal, man? You're just a basketball player. Stick to the court and stay out of things you don't understand," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. The other bikers chuckled behind him, their confidence returning as they began to close ranks around Steph and Rocco. Steph's expression remained steady, his calm composure unwavering despite the tension thickening in the air. "You can say whatever you want about me," he said firmly, "but this isn't about me. This is about your cruelty and what you think gives you the right to hurt anyone, or anything, smaller than you." The leader's grin faltered for just a moment, but he quickly recovered, gesturing to his friends. "Look at this guy, trying to play the hero," he sneered. "What are you gonna do, dribble a basketball at me?" The bikers began to move closer, their stances more threatening now as they slowly circled Steph and Rocco. The atmosphere at the gas station grew tense, the air heavy with the possibility of violence. Rocco, sensing the danger, stepped forward, his muscular frame taut and his ears pinned back. A low, guttural growl rumbled from his chest as he positioned himself between Steph and the bikers, his protective instincts on full display. Steph reached down to place a reassuring hand on Rocco's back, silently communicating that he had the situation under control. "You should back off now," Steph said calmly, his voice steady but carrying a warning. "Hurting a defenseless dog doesn't make you strong, it just makes you a bully. And we all know bullies can't handle someone who stands up to them." Nearby, a few gas station customers had stopped to watch the confrontation. Phones were raised as people began recording, capturing Steph's composed yet firm stance as he defended Rocco. The videos would later go viral, showing the contrast between the bikers' aggression and Steph's calm resolve. One bystander, an older woman standing near her car, discreetly stepped away and made a call. "There's trouble at the gas station," she said quietly into her phone. "A group of bikers is harassing a man and his dog. You need to send someone quickly." Back in the circle, the biker leader's grin faded as the weight of Steph's words, and the eyes of the growing crowd, began to sink in. He looked around, noticing the phones pointed at him, and his arrogance faltered slightly. "You don't scare me," he muttered, though his voice lacked the same bravado. Steph took a small step forward, his towering frame radiating confidence. "This isn't about fear," he said. "It's about doing what's right. And right now, you have the chance to walk away before things get worse, for you." The faint sound of sirens in the distance signaled that the situation was about to take a turn. The bikers exchanged uneasy glances, their bravado starting to crack as the reality of consequences loomed closer. Steph stood his ground, his hand steady on Rocco, as they waited for the confrontation to come to its inevitable end. The piercing sound of sirens filled the air as two police cruisers pulled into the gas station, their red and blue lights casting a stark glow over the scene. The tension that had gripped the station began to shift as the officers stepped out of their vehicles, their presence immediately commanding attention. The bikers, who had been circling Steph and Rocco moments earlier, froze, their confidence replaced by unease as they exchanged nervous glances. One officer approached the group, his hand resting on his belt. "What's going on here?" he demanded, his voice firm. The crowd of onlookers, many still holding their phones, stepped forward to explain. A woman who had been recording the entire incident spoke first, her voice steady but filled with indignation. "That man," she said, pointing at the biker leader, "kicked this poor dog for no reason. We've got it all on video." Another bystander chimed in, holding out their phone. "They were harassing Steph Curry and threatening him after the dog got hurt. It was completely unprovoked." The officer's expression darkened as he turned to the biker leader, who was now visibly uncomfortable. "Is that true?" the officer asked, his tone sharp. The biker leader shrugged, attempting to downplay the situation. "It's just a dog. It's not a big deal," he muttered, but his bravado had clearly waned. The officer gestured for the videos, and several witnesses stepped forward to show the footage they had captured. The videos clearly displayed the biker leader kicking Rocco, followed by the group's mocking laughter and their aggressive behavior towards Steph. The officer reviewed the recordings, his face growing sterner with each passing second. "Animal cruelty is not just a dog," he said firmly, locking eyes with the biker leader. "And threatening someone, especially unprovoked, is no joke either. You're looking at serious consequences." The second officer stepped forward, addressing the bikers as a group. "Everyone here is being detained until we get this sorted out. Anyone who thinks they can intimidate or harm others without facing repercussions is sorely mistaken." The bikers began to stammer excuses, their arrogance now completely evaporated. The leader, still attempting to salvage his pride, muttered, "We didn't mean for things to get out of hand." But the officers weren't buying it. "You meant it the moment you kicked that dog," one officer replied coldly. "Now you'll have to explain that in court." As the officers moved to separate the bikers for questioning, Steph knelt down beside Rocco, who had stayed close to him throughout the ordeal. "You okay, boy?" Steph asked softly, his voice filled with concern. He gently ran his hand over Rocco's fur, checking for any signs of injury. Rocco wagged his tail slightly, licking Steph's hand as if to say he was fine. "That's my guy," Steph murmured, smiling at the dog's resilience. The older woman who had called the police approached Steph, her expression warm and supportive. "Thank you for standing up for him," she said, nodding toward Rocco. "That poor dog didn't deserve any of this." Steph looked up, his voice calm yet firm. "No one deserves to be treated like that, not an animal, not a person. We all have to stand up against cruelty when we see it." The officers returned after wrapping up their questioning, one of them addressing Steph directly. "Thank you for keeping calm and de-escalating the situation. We've got enough evidence here to press charges for animal cruelty and harassment. They'll be held accountable." Steph stood, nodding in appreciation. "Thank you for showing up so quickly and handling this." As the police escorted the bikers into their vehicles, the crowd began to applaud. Steph, still standing protectively beside Rocco, smiled humbly. "This isn't about me," he said to the onlookers. "It's about doing what's right, for Rocco and for anyone who can't speak up for themselves." Before leaving, Steph gave Rocco one last reassuring pat and said, "Let's get out of here, buddy. You're the real MVP today." Rocco wagged his tail enthusiastically as they got back into the car, the gas station returning to a sense of peace, knowing justice had been served. As the police cruisers left the gas station, the tense atmosphere began to dissolve, replaced by murmurs of admiration from the crowd. People gathered around Steph Curry, some still holding their phones to record, while others reached out to thank him for his actions. Steph stood tall, Rocco sitting loyally by his side, his tail wagging gently. The dog, though visibly calmer, remained close to Steph, as if he knew his owner was his protector. Steph raised his hand slightly to quiet the growing crowd. His expression was serious, but his voice carried warmth and sincerity. "I want to take a moment to say something important," he began, his gaze sweeping across the gathered faces. "What happened here today shouldn't happen to anyone, whether it's a person or an animal. How we treat those who can't speak for themselves says everything about who we are." The crowd grew silent, hanging on his every word. Steph placed a hand on Rocco's head, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "Rocco here, he's a reminder that loyalty and love don't have a voice, but they're as real as anything we feel. It's our job to protect those who can't protect themselves. Whether it's a dog like Rocco, a child, or anyone vulnerable, we have a responsibility to step up when we see cruelty." A young woman in the crowd, holding her phone, spoke up. Thank you for doing this, Steph. Not everyone would stand up the way you did. Steph smiled humbly, shaking his head. It's not about being a basketball player or being famous. It's about doing what's right. You don't need a platform to stand up for someone who needs it. Kindness and compassion don't cost a thing, but they can change everything. As more people recorded his words, Steph continued, this isn't just about Rocco. It's about a mindset. If you see cruelty, don't stay silent. Speak up, step in, and make a difference. The smallest act of kindness can have the biggest impact. The heartfelt moment resonated deeply with the crowd. Someone shouted, "You're a real hero, Steph," while others nodded in agreement, some even wiping away tears. Rocco looked up at Steph, his eyes bright, as if understanding the significance of the moment. Within hours, the incident was all over social media. Videos of Steph's confrontation with the bikers and his powerful message quickly went viral, garnering millions of views. Fans and animal lovers flooded the comments sections with praise for his courage and compassion. Hashtags like #StephCurryHero, #KindnessMatters, and #JusticeForRocco began trending across platforms. Animal welfare organizations joined the conversation, using the story to promote awareness about animal cruelty. Some even reached out to Steph, offering to partner with him for campaigns. Meanwhile, Rocco became an unexpected symbol of resilience and love, his story inspiring countless people to advocate for animals in their communities. A few days later, Steph posted a video on his social media, featuring Rocco sitting happily beside him. "Rocco and I just want to say thank you for all the love and support," Steph said, petting his loyal companion. "Let's keep this momentum going. Be kind, always. Stand up for what's right. Together, we can make the world a better place, not just for animals, but for everyone." The video ended with Rocco playfully licking Steph's hand, a small but powerful reminder that acts of kindness, no matter how simple, can ripple out and inspire millions. As the situation at the gas station settled, Steph Curry and Rocco returned to their car. Rocco, now relaxed and wagging his tail, hopped into the back seat. Steph gave him a reassuring pat on the head. "You did great, buddy," he said softly, his voice filled with pride and affection. Rocco licked Steph's hand in response, as if saying thank you in his own way. Steph got into the driver's seat of his sleek black Range Rover, taking one last look at the gas station in his rearview mirror. The flashing lights of the police cars had faded, and the crowd was dispersing, still buzzing with what they had just witnessed. Steph started the car, glancing back at Rocco with a smile. "Let's go home," he said, as they drove off into the setting sun, the bond between them stronger than ever. Later that evening, Steph sat on his couch with Rocco curled up beside him. He picked up his phone and decided to share the day's events with his followers. Posting a photo of Rocco sitting proudly next to him, Steph wrote, "Today reminded me why kindness and courage matter. Rocco didn't deserve what happened to him, and neither does any other living being. How we treat animals and those who can't speak for themselves reflects who we are. Kindness isn't weakness, it's strength. Stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. Let's create a world where compassion wins, every time." The post instantly went viral, with fans, animal lovers, and celebrities sharing it widely. The comments were filled with messages of support and admiration, with many people sharing their own stories of standing up for what's right. Rocco became a symbol of resilience and love, inspiring people across the globe to treat animals with the respect and care they deserve. Steph's message didn't stop there. A few days later, he partnered with an animal welfare organization, pledging to help raise awareness about animal cruelty and encourage people to adopt and care for pets like Rocco. The story became a movement, reminding everyone that even the smallest acts of kindness can make a big difference. Before logging off, Steph recorded a quick video with Rocco for his followers. "Thank you for all the love and support for Rocco and me," he said with a smile. Remember, kindness changes everything. Don't forget to stand up for what's right, no matter how small it might seem. He ended the video with a wink and added, "Oh, and if you liked this story, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more. Together, let's make the world a kinder place." As Steph turned off his phone, he looked down at Rocco, who was already snoozing peacefully beside him. With a deep breath and a smile, he leaned back, knowing that their story had made a difference, and it was just the beginning.